Yeah, the interesting thing as well is, although Train is a different ball game entirely, I feel like both teams had a much better T side on Inferno than their CT side looked. So that also throws a different element into this. But as you said, Triumph starting on that T side of things, so we'll have to see if they can get a good start or if it will be High Coast getting the double ops in thick and fast. Already, nades being tossed out into the site. Flashbang behind them. Viz has already been tagged down to 7 HP, but the first blood is claimed by Triumph as they rip straight through onto outside.
Jigzilla as well through the edge of the smoke, and this is going to give him so much control. Like, if the T-side were to lose it from here with the amount of positioning they currently have, a bit worried. How has Ben managed to get there without anybody spotting him? I don't think it's going to matter too much. Boot, the last one in a 1 versus 4, and wow, they're all going to peek him at exactly the same time. No chance for the final man of High Coast, and wow, that's probably the start the Triumph were looking for.
Precisely, and that's going to make that double AWP pickup that little bit more tentative and difficult, assuming that High Coast can't instantly bounce back and get success of their own. And Maui touched on this as well, this idea that, listen, if you really want to prioritize the double AWPs, assuming that they do lose this next round, do they then maybe even eco in the round after that? They maybe throw some deagles in and take an extra kind of hit on the back of the head just so they can afford those 2 AWPs. If they do that, it puts even more pressure on that round. If you've waited an extra round, you waited a couple rounds in a row, and then you concede, you're in such a bad position. Now, opponent alone has already been dealt with swiftly with a Molotov just behind him, then pints it in the head. So Triumph off to a cracking start again.
It's one of the maps where a double scout definitely can work for you, but I feel like once you lose a player, everything sort of diminishes a little bit. You're hoping to hit those tags with the scout as a minimum, and then the remaining players can sort of clean things up with the pistols. But if there's nobody left with pistols, it becomes a slightly harder task. Now, we are going to see the straight-up execution. No expense spared for Triumph, as they want to make sure that they get themselves through here. I like the position from Boo. It's not your typical scout spot, that's for sure. And actually, they've turned this into a fake. Realizing that the player that was left lurking on the other side of the map has been able to clear everything out. A free A site, an after plant on a site which is far tougher to retake. And unfortunately for High Coast, they gambled, they were close, but it's not going to work out this time.
Yeah, and I hope that they have the clarity to just save now. It sucks, doesn't feel like you're particularly that exciting or interesting, but your economy absolutely requires it. And again, this alleviates some of that pressure we were talking about before with maybe taking that extra tap out towards the double up setup. Now you've got 4 weapons still at your disposal. Sure, 2 of them are deagles, but it gives you something to play with in that next round. Maybe you can make it costly. And the fact that Triumph actually come out into this round as well, interestingly enough, with 0 SMGs. They came into this round with full rifles. That in itself is a bit unorthodox. You expect to see at least 1 SMG for the run and gun style, maybe busting out of B site or maybe A main. So interesting, they're not going to charge down as a result of that. They simply can't afford to do so. And so we end in a bit of a stalemate. Sure, Triumph have the 2-0, but High Coast still with enough helpings of weaponry to make this costly if Triumph overstep.
And also, just looking at the financial state now, if some of the players buy basically nothing here, that we could see that AWP coming, at least one of them. Like RCF will be having enough money going forward, like with the extra 2,900. He'll have enough even for some extra Kevlar as well. And then Pone alone, not in quite as safe a position, but if he could maybe get himself an extra kill, then we could be seeing the same. So there's potential there, but basically needing to spend very, very little to nothing in this next round. We are actually going to see a short pause called. I wonder if this is one of a technical nature, unless they really are having a tough talk about economy, although I would say in terms of the early games, it's not that hard to work out the economy, obviously after you get that nice little bonus that was added in. But yeah, for High Coast here, I think that has to be a focus, especially for RCF, because I think that's one of the things, especially when you're playing a map like Train, you can use it, for example, on Overpass as well, is if you have an audacious AWPer, someone who is going to get aggressive, who's going to take space, who's going to make things awkward, that's what you want when you're an underdog going into a map. You not play this map, you're not particularly comfortable on it, get aggressive, take the fight to them. And that's something that RCF is definitely happy to do, even with an AWP in very risky situations. So I think that's what they need to do going forward. Maybe he can throw Triumph off balance a little bit, and then we can see some of the early rounds we saw from them in the first map where even though they had massive advantages, they would still let things slip away from silly little mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting aspect to that as well, which I completely agree with, of having like that chaos maker, that interference play, the loose cannon, so to speak, is although these teams have played each other quite a few times, they've not played on train for the last 6 or so months against one another. And of course, rosters have changed and all that kind of stuff. So there may be an element with High Coast not playing train as much where maybe Triumph come into this and they are a little bit unsure. They are a bit unwary and a bit concerned as to what could be coming up. This is the kind of aggressive play that you may very well anticipate, but it serves 2 purposes. One, maybe Ben can be unleashed and get a kill, but secondly, it allows the rest of his team to stack 4 players on A as he has that early intel being gathered.
I like how Triumph are playing this, though. It's very patient. I think they've realized like a round like this is coming. Then the double shot to the chest and then the swing. Maybe didn't expect that many players to be there. And ShakeZula's looking like he's having a little bit of dinner. He's munching away while playing. That might be gum. I do know that some players like chew a bit of gum to try and focus themselves. Although I'm hoping if he's the one calling still, it might be a little bit off. Like, let's go to towards the B site.
You'd have to hope that he's mastered talking while chewing gum at this point. That would be an awful reason to lose. I couldn't understand you, ShakeZula. Take the gum out your mouth. 40 seconds to go, and ShakeZula and Cynic are both pretty low, below 50% HP, but the same could be said of the Brazilian component of High Coast, but they're actually stacking the wrong bomb. They're over on the B site. I say wrong bomb. Possibly this rotation could come in, but the fact that the bomb itself is in the hands of B Wills over on A main suggests that this will be an A-sided hit to end the round. And now they're starting to push out. High Coast Esports, they may have just played themselves. They may have overthought this one. 12 seconds to go. Maybe they can spill a bit more blood and get a couple of casualties down, but the bomb is about to get planted. With 5 seconds left on the clock, Triumph, they force their will and force High Coast into a retake.
Yeah, this time they might as well go for it. Like, other than Modem, there's nothing that I want to see brought into the next round. Well, obviously, Ponalone will have another USP, but he doesn't need to save this one. So this is a real attempt to try and do some damage. The scouts as well are going to be completely worthless, but in this round at least, that's already an extra tag. And you mentioned already, that's now 3 players that are incredibly low. Unfortunately, that might be untapped damage. Not knowing how low some of these players are, I'm sure they would have pushed a little bit more aggressively. And I have to be honest, Vince, I'm a bit disappointed they haven't. Like, really not as much damage as they could have done. It's actually Motten, the one player with something to keep, although I think he helps put down a second player, making things very costly for Triumph. Sure, they have enough money anyway. It's not really the end of the world, but I feel like the other 2 players that still had a scout, for example, could have just run in and tried to take something away.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that assessment. And hold on a second. Boo is coming out here with no armor. So you got no armor on the M4 for Boo. Unless I'm getting a bit old here, Tom, but I don't think my eyes have tricked me that much just yet. So that's definitely not what the ideal situation, and already he's been put down. May not end up mattering. It was a headshot anyway, but after you've waited all this time to get double ops in play, you lose 2 players instantly. And Triumph just rips straight out towards A site. Make it 3.
I love this round from Triumph. I love it. You've got a couple of weaker weapons anyway, although you did have to repurchase 1 or 2. But also, let's be real. Maui spoke about it on the desk. We spoke about it here. We know what High Coast want to do. We know what sort of weaponry they want to bring into this sort of round. So the great opposition to that is pace. Like, just pick up the speed, throw in all the nades, create a massive distraction. And if the AWPers can't hit those shots within the first few seconds, they're dead. And while for Boo, you mentioned not having any armor, it didn't even seem to matter. He was dead so fast, he didn't even get to sort of open up the spray onto any of the players. And while ShakeZula munching away, he's just going to go and clean up the remainder. Even going to retrieve a second route. Now they've got a double up on the T side. He's almost rubbing it in a bit.
Oh, this is a grim start. And I mean, when you also look at their previous results for High Coast on train, one of which was against Extra Assault, which was earlier this month, just a few days ago, actually. They lost it 16-9. All right, fair enough. That's against Extra Assault. They're no slouches. They got wrecked off Bad News Bears at the end of January, 16-2, Tom. So it's not even a map where they've came super close in both games. Like, this is a map they don't really play much, and their previous results are pretty grim, as is that grenade they've just caught. Yeah,
worryingly so far, obviously we've only got 1 round to really go off, but the Pistols have seemed to do more. And again, it's going to be a stronger start. It might just be the manner in which the rounds are actually being played. Like, it's much slower from Triumph, but understandably so. You're going to slow things down when you know you're up against Pistols, but it gives more of a chance for the pick play. RCF is already going to find another. Now, they're trying to pressure onto Cooper and leaving Cynic. I don't think they expected a second AWP to be here, but it's not really the weapon you want in this sort of scenario. Everybody looking to get right up in his grill, and there's a TK! No, it's all gone wrong. Pwn alone really does like to be left alone. Doesn't want his teammates anywhere near him. In fact, put a bullet in one of their brains. That is unfortunate. Ben, he still has a chance, Vince, but I feel like this might have slipped away now.
Oh, Tom, just when you think it couldn't go worse for High Coast, they're like, right, hold my AWP. Hold my AWP round in the back of your head. Oh, it's so brutal. I think it may be an assault rifle. It doesn't really matter because Ben at least has the element of surprise. It's the only thing that's going his way. But the second he shows his hand, unless he gets the kill outright, it's going to be rough, but he does get it. And he was a few millimeters away. I'm glad he can laugh that one off. Must be frustrating. But High Coast, it's a round that you feel like they had a real chance at winning, Tom.
Yeah. Are we gonna get? No, we're gonna get a replay of the good. Do we get the bad? Okay. This is all fine. This is all fine. I don't even know what happened.
Oh no.
I'm still confused. It's like he shot him from behind and instantly died at exactly the same time. That is as unfortunate as it gets. And well, at least now we have a bye. But let's be real, Vince. 5 rounds already. Pretty damn good start for Triumph. This is their choice of map. They've got a ridiculous amount of cash starting to build up on a couple of players as well. They are still going to get hit by the same nade and an AWP tag.
The AWP tag at least put Sheikh Zula low enough that Boo only tagged him once with the M4 and yielded the kill. Now, although there are 2 AWPs in play, lack of utility and no kits could be an issue. So even more integral and important for them to claim that first frag, which they've done. Molotov out onto RCF. He's burning to a crisp. He's down to 22. Now, he's in an awkward position. The flashbang would pretty much yield the kill onto him, but he decides to pull back. He needs to stay alive. He knows the importance of this round, and not just getting that round, but also keeping as many players alive in the process as possible.
Triumph are stuck in the mud here, because I don't know if the bomb rolled out when the kill came in onto Sheikh Zula, but it's in one of the worst spots it could ever be in. There are now pretty much 5 players just homed in, trying to stop them coming out of main. And that's where every single one of the players are pushing from. They're getting picked apart one by one by one. And while the first round on the board, you mentioned keeping it clean, Vince. Well, that's as clean as it gets.
It certainly is a great start. Again, though, and I totally agree with you, I feel like the fact that the bomb just rolls out on towards Sandwich when there's no utility left, you're already behind players, allows High Coast to over-rotate to just hold those angles. That's not really a situation, a play that is going to come to the forefront too many times. So although High Coast won and they keep all 5 players alive, that's excellent news. It's not the kind of round, Tom, that I can say, right, they're going to be able to rinse and repeat and get 4 or 5 more of those in their back pocket.
Well, in terms of their buy, it's almost as good as it gets. Double AWP. They got a couple of AKs to boot. Ben just going to be falling back. I suppose it's Ben Lee. He's technically the top player on his team, at least, although a little bit further behind from the start we've seen from Cynic. Looking like we might just see a straight-up B execution. 4 players waiting outside, looking to take the peek onto upper. The flank being watched as well. Though it's being watched by Cooper. So the AWP's actually watching the flank. I think he might be doing it with the pistol, maybe just trying to set up a few grenades to try and fake out the other side of the map as now the execution begins for the remainder of Triumph.
And he flashes as well alongside it, however, because Ben has gone completely undeterred, but they have the element of surprise from above. And death is dished out accordingly. Triumph looking good for a 6th. And High Coast, after keeping all their players alive in the previous round, well, they've instantly been knocked back a peg or 2 here, Tom, and already conceding 6 rounds. We said before that both teams looked far sharper on their T side of Inferno. I was curious if that would continue to be the case, and I mean, Triumph have just gone from strength to strength.
Yeah, that round looked a bit more disjointed for me. Like, I feel like High Coast up to this point, like we were talking about, like weaker weaponry. The first round, I can forgive the fact that they just got blasted out of the water by the sheer pace that was thrown in by Triumph. This round, you had Modern watching upper, switches to a flash as they push, and his teammate was just dead. Like, there's nothing you can do from that situation because he was really relying on his teammate holding the angle. So I don't know if that's slight miscommunication, like you wouldn't be that far open if your teammate's holding a flash, or maybe just really poor timing for them there. But whatever it was, quick pace again, decent execution coming out from the side of Triumph. And they look very, very comfortable on this map. Other than the one mishap of the bomb rolling out, they've been utterly dominant.
Clinical. See what you did there? I was on some bad stats at all. Very impressive stuff from Cynic. And that early tactical timeout from High Coast, understandably so. They have been battered and bruised, and apart from that one clean sweep round, mainly as a result of the bomb doing them a bit of a favor, it has been very comfortable for Triumph. Now, in terms of spawns, pretty standard for High Coast. I'm curious if they're going to start to mix things up after that timeout. They're going to start to get aggressive into A main, try and take some early control. We already saw, I think it was Ben pushed out with the Deagle up on the box halls. It's all well and good doing that when you basically have real buy to play behind, but can you start to do that when you have rifles and try and take the initiative? Otherwise, Triumph, it feels like, will slowly just choke out High Coast on this half.
How high has Viz got his digital vibrance? Because, like, he looks like he's perma-flashed. Like, I've never seen anyone... Look how bright that is!
Jeez.
How could he see? Like, I feel like he's going to burn out his eyes in the next, like, year. Like, that's insane. Oh, my. I've never seen it that way. I've seen people in very, very dark rooms, but I've never seen the brightness be that high. He is constantly flashed, but he could just see through it at this stage. They are going to take some control over onto Ivy. Now, what I was kind of hoping for hasn't really happened. We haven't seen RCF or Pwn alone get particularly aggressive. In fact, they've been in fairly passive angles and been forced off of them in the majority of the takes we've seen so far. I was going to say I wanted to see some B aggression, but we've got it in the form of Ben instead. So they should now know this is an A take. They've got all the information elsewhere. And RCF, well, he's not really being particularly aggressive, but he's just got himself in a rut, in a really awkward spot. And Pwn alone missing shots. Luckily, Modern from above is dealing death.
I almost feel bad for RCF because he was basically just hung out to dry. He tried to get aggressive. Fortunately, Motum has came good with 2 and has some help from Boo as well with his AK. Puts Cooper down. He's been tagged. That sound cue will give his position away more than likely. And as he comes around the corner, he gets one. But it will be one and done. Finally, High Coast double up. And they get themselves across to 2 rounds. And additionally, on top of that, Tom, you look at the economy of Triumph, it's not looking too great. They may have to go down into some kind of a half-buy situation here.
Yeah, fairly surprising, especially considering like how dominant some of the early rounds were. I do wonder, though, if they might just go for something explosive again. Because thus far, High Coast really haven't looked too good at like holding their ground. I think they've relied on a couple of decent individual moments. Like I said, the dropping of the bomb, and in that round in particular, Modem just basically ruining anyone that came into his path. Other than that, I think if you get yourself Cynic on a rifle, give him a chance to like just aggressively push out A main. I wouldn't be surprised if he finds an opener, and both AWPers who are, it's pretty much their job to deny him, are really struggling thus far. And I think we've seen it now a couple of times at least. RCF has just ended up in Sandwich. And I can't really think of a worse place for an AWPer to just basically be completely in the open, just trying to knock down as many as he can. I feel like he needs to be getting into better positions to actually be able to do damage with that AWP.
Yeah, definitely. Either better positions or have the rest of his team play around his spots. And I think definitely just having a little bit more clarity of pulling back may be the way forward. I get being aggressive, but sometimes it does more harm than good. Pwn alone does kick off the round, however, and speaking of aggression, it's going to be just that. But Triumph, after force buying, they're low money. They have ran into the brick wall of CTs, and Viz tries to push through the smoke. He's been tagged. They know exactly where he is now. He's living on borrowed time, and they have collected in full. A 3rd round to High Coast. They're starting to build up a bit of economy and a bit of confidence on top of it.
And that was a full investment as well. That was Triumph putting in everything they've got. Can't really say I was against it, as I said before the round. I feel like they could have got away with quite a lot there, but this time, Pwn alone, it seems like they did switch angles. So he went playing to the right side of the A site, more towards Ivy, and RCF went back towards the connector because of how many times he actually got caught out. And that change up, I guess that just shows the sort of versatility we have within the High Coast players that, okay, that's not working. Let's just change it around completely and try it a different way.
Which kind of factors into a point that we were raising about having double AWPs. When you have two different styles of AWP, it allows you to be more fluid, more adaptive. Motum takes a speculative shot, sees a couple of players, throws down his utility, and just lives to tell the tale. He also has the AUG-wielding Ben watching the low ramp push, and Triumph, who are down to pistols at this point, only have Viz across here, but it's about to have some support in the form of Cynic with the bomb. Actually, now 4 players are scampering over onto the B side, so it would suggest that we're about to have a full-on B hit. They have a flashbang to proceed the push. Not a huge amount at their disposal, but it seems like they may have just got cold feet. They may be hitting the A side after all, even though Sheikh Zula's been picked off, and that may now be the green light to go back to B again. I wish they just make up their minds. They're now pushing out. The timing may very well have actually worked out for them, though. Maybe difficult to get the bomb down with shrapnel all around them. They're being finished off one by one, but it's a post plant. Mission accomplished. They obviously weren't going to win that round, but at least the bomb plant gives them some options going forward.
I wonder if Heikos actually missed a molly there, because it looked like a molly was thrown in, but I don't think it landed. So the nade did the damage, and then the fire was meant to basically deny the plant. But Triumph, I feel like they'll be reasonably happy with that. They didn't really invest anything. Yeah, it did. Oh, the guys at DreamHack are just incredible. Like, that is not a replay I ever expected to get, and it's right at the beginning. Top work as always. But yeah, so the molly misses. That would have denied the plant because the nade landed straight afterwards and basically would have stopped any extra money. So Triumph, if anything, they're lucky to get what they got and now have pretty much a flawless buy. No AWP coming in, and we know that they like to run a couple themselves. So this round at least, maybe going to pick up the pace once again.
This time, though, it's that run and gun style with the AKs. Now, this round, a bomb plant would not be good enough. They need the round itself. They've segregated Ben for the rest of his team with that isolating Molotov. That's a post plant and a player to the good. Heikos, they have to walk over the Molotovs and through bullets, and they're being tagged down so low. Cynic finishes off Boo through the smoke, and now B Wills holds the line, and that will be the round over. I doubt the Heikos going for this. Yes, they can afford to buy into the next one, but of course they want to hold on to both of their AWPs and also deny any chance for Triumph to take one of them and scavenge them into the next round. So although Heikos were looking to turn their fortunes, finally they've ran back into Triumph that don't want to deal with any of these shenanigans. They'll move ahead to 7 rounds already on their T half.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised Modem actually goes back in. Of course, they've got enough money. It was something I mentioned on Inferno as well. Like, there seem to be scenarios where it almost looks like he's trying to win a scenario that just will never happen. And it like pushed in right at the end with his 2 teammates saving. As said, financially, it doesn't really matter too much. That's the moment right there. Again, spot on. But 7-4, Triumph, a little bit, I almost want to call it a blip on the radar. And now looking straight back in control. 7 rounds, you see again, perfectly in their favor at the moment. And not picking up that AWP, it really does suggest that they're looking to try and basically just keep things quick. Other side of things, Vince, though, if 2 AWPs doesn't work, why not try 3?
The 5-head plays, Tom. Let's see if they work out. They've gone aggressive behind this. B Wills gets caught with a grenade out, and Motum will put him down. Cynic, underarm flash. Cooper's been tagged down to 16. Molotov behind it. They try and run out of main. Now, not getting sandwiched, though, from Pop Dog. Hasn't been covered from the CTs. It wasn't a flash. The bomb goes in. The bomb's now been dropped down. It's a disaster round for Triumph. And unless some miraculous clutch comes into play, it's looking good that this triple AWP setup will yield the round, albeit mainly the rifles that did the damage. But Heikos have got their fifth.
They keep it. They actually, this was a plan. There was a thing in my head where I was like, you know, people misbuy sometimes. You don't know, but no, this was the plan. They didn't get rid of any of the AWPs. Could have picked up an AK instead. So this is what they want to be running right now. I'm not going to give credit to the AWPs in that round at all. It was mainly the aggression from Modem again. They had a decent flash behind it, but they take full control of main. And it just seemed like Triumph were all in. Like the fact that the bomb got delivered over to the CT side is a little bit mad. But hey, that's what they want to play. That's what they want to play. There is that third AWP, the tertiary. And Jake, what? You'll never expect me to jump into the fire.
Bottom now taking a different angle up on box halls behind the smoke. It will clear momentarily, and Cooper has a good idea as to what's coming up. Now, does he realize the angle, though? His two teammates are pushed down ramp. The timing works against bottom, and the superior AK triumphs over the M4. That's a bad miss from Ben, and that could prove so devastating. Another Molotov's been tossed down, so they can't move through connector. 3-on-3 retake, but this is a round, Tom, that should already be over.
Yeah, if they lose this round, I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about. I'm watching this one back later on. It's work from Boo, though. The timing, and okay, all forgotten. RCF, I mentioned it earlier. You go, did I get him? Well, completely blind? No, this time he got both. So it will be High Coast getting away with things. Again, I feel like even though they won the round, there has to be criticism put in. Like, I understand Modern wanting to maybe be a bit of a surprise there. You're in a 5 versus 3. It's just completely unnecessary, like to take such a risky play. And it does leave his teammate on the site where, hey, Ben misses a shot, and that's enough for it to slip away from them. So yeah, they get away with it this time, but those are the sort of mistakes that you really can't afford to be making, especially when Triumph are already in the lead on the T side. You don't want to allow them to get around like that when you had a big advantage.
Yeah, it also depends on like the bigger picture as well. If High Coast want to go the distance and actually win this tournament and they play against a team like Liquid and you make those mistakes, you're getting punished for them. 100%. So RSF's in the top 5 for opening duel rating for 2021 with a 1.26 rating and 55.9% success. That's very impressive statistically, actually.
But how many bunny hop kills has he got on Arch with an AWP? I would say none. So, you know.
None that we've seen, at least. Yeah.
None that we've seen. Maybe that works like the other 9 times. You never know. You never know. You probably do know, but let's just say you don't. Pistols again. It's not going to be great for Triumph, but they're basically trying to bring something into the next round. Ben, again, this time only 1. So the rotation's going to be coming in. Now, for the T side, they need to get some ground here. Most of them have pistols. They need to get up in the faces, and that's exactly what Cooper's doing. He's denying the rotation all on his own. A quick double to start things off, and both remaining players have AWPs. One of them's dead for sure. Maybe Pwn alone can find some sort of trade, but well, realistically, I was going to say he might want to save, but he doesn't actually need to. He's got $11,000 in the bank. Rest of his teammates, bar Motum, are good, and he can take a risk, try and do some damage. It's not going to affect things.
Now, does Fizz use this AWP, or do they stay with the 5 assault rifles? Because this very rapid kind of pace they've been setting, and as we see from Cooper's perspective here, has been yielding so much for them. So I want to see if they actually do opt to go for the AWP if they drop it down. So Viz will keep the AWP in his hands. Last round of the half, of course, they can actually juggle a weapon out of there as well. So he can take that first shot because he's got a great spawn for it and fall back if needs be. 2 flashes, though, are tossed in. Does he trade across to the AK now? Let's have a look. He absolutely does. So he'll be tossing that to Cooper and taking the AK himself. And our Triumph can slow things down a little bit and make the CTs sweat over this one.
Oh, not a great start from Pwn alone. Molotov to, oh, okay, never mind. He actually runs through it, repositions, gets him a better angle, and seems like it was a bit of a surprise for Sheikh Zula. Not ready for him to repeat that angle. Now, they had a full 5-man stack for a second on the A site. Because of the early aggression of RCF, he managed to find information that there's no one towards B. And because of that, they're starting to slowly pick apart the T side. 1 kill will come in for B Wills, but wouldn't be too much more. Although if they keep peeking him, maybe there will be.
Oh, that's a shot Cooper will feel like he should have been hitting, and it would have put it down to a 2-on-2. Instead, it's B Wills on 46 HP. Coming up through Ivy. Has time on his side for now. But those stands of time will quickly switch around. Actually won't be. RCF puts the final nail in the coffin at halftime. It's 8-7. With a real chance for High Coast to bring this back. Find out if they can after this short break.
start swinging. Brace yourself, this is only the beginning. Set and go, my drive isn't counting. Don't need time, I'm really honey. It's my show, it's my homecoming. I'm gonna say, I'm breaking through the smoke. I'm rising to the top. I'm turning in the leaf. I'm taking back control. And I'm breaking up a mold. No way you're not gonna stop. I'm turning in the heat. I'm taking back control.
Well, the half may have been as close as it can be in scoreline, but Triumph definitely came out the better. A strong start to the half, and although High Coast definitely fought back a little bit, it seemed like there was a lot to be desired when it came to their CT side. Now, though, Vince, moving into the T... Wait, Pone alone, he's got a dig in the pistol. Do you know what? The guys in matchmaking do this all the time, so it must be a good strat.
I think Train is one of those maps where actually it's not too bad. That and Dust do with the two. Yeah, because you want to take these longer range incursions. So, like, fair enough. He's using it in main. Try and peel off a cap somewhere towards the backside of Ivy. 4 players over there, leaving B-Wills alone. He was the lone defender most of the time on Inferno as well. And speaking of Inferno, both teams fared far better on their T half. So although High Coast certainly up against it, get this pistol under their belt, and who knows what could happen. Very slow, though. You can already see the differences in style of these pistol rounds. Triumph was so aggressive, lightning quick, whereas High Coast more meticulous, taking their time.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't say GG go lose if he dies, then he's not like my matchmaking teammates. But either way, Cynic gonna spot the flash coming out. I think they were waiting for some sort of opener, and well, it just hasn't come. They get the first kill, but after that is a flurry of frags for the side of Triumph, and their patience pays off. I think that's almost why they had the sort of slower pistol run. They bought that deagle, they wanted that opener, they had the pistol ready for it, but nobody really went peeking. Triumph were calm and collected, and now they reap the rewards.
Exactly, and they had the kind of setup as well with B-Wills over on box holes, basically shoulder peeking, that if at any point they did start to hit B-site, he can fall back, call in the rotation through connector. That was a really nice setup from Triumph. And now High Coast, with no bomb plant to speak of, getting completely crushed, can't even go in for a force. So they're down to P250, and that's basically it with Cynic on aggressive peak. Ben has been dealt a fatal blow, and this round likely will be falling into place with Triumph on 10 rounds already. It's hard to see where High Coast can really come into this one because they don't even have Deagles. They don't have any one-tap potential. It's pretty much just the P250 in the hands of RCF that can maybe maybe best case get a frag onto B and then perhaps a post plant. But that's asking a lot because Viz is stood here with an MP9 and 30 bullets behind him that can just shut down this push.
It'd be a fairly big surprise at this point if they somehow manage to get up on plant. Cooper, he'll get dinked for very, very little. And, well, you did mention that P250. It does garner a kill, but the bomb plant they desire is not going to be happening. So 10-7, now is where we'll see the rifles. And as I said, I don't necessarily think that High Coast are completely out of this game. Like I still remember thinking back to Modern managing to completely prove me wrong before, where we had G2 versus the prior to Cloud9 squad, and they managed to bring things back with, I think it was 10+ rounds over on their T side of train. So he's been there before, and this, they don't even need 10.
Early damage to Boo as well. He has no grenades behind him. The same could be said of RCF and Pwn alone. So when they do go for that execute, there's only 2 smokes. This means they'll be more one-dimensional. Can't really throw out fakes. HE being tossed in. RCF aggressively down ramp. But that smoke's still in their eyes. Cooper replenishes said smoke. They may be trying to push behind it through the Molotov. And Viz again goes down without much of a fight. There's a second. Viz's Molly will get the kill from beyond the grave. And now High Coast at least will be post-plant, and there's only an MP9 for Sheikh Zula, and RCF has gone in again.
Oh, you could tell Boo's just sat there like, why on earth are you there? Why are you still on the other side of the map? It's a free weapon, though. It's an AK, and in fact, with a quick kill from B Wills, it's leave it down to a 2 versus 2. A real possibility here. They have a kit, but the clock is ticking. They have to get a move on, and Pwn alone is left on his lonesome. It will be the retake. I'm sure they're very tilted about that one because that looked like a surefire round for High Coast Esports, but a sneaky kill from the likes of Sheikh Zilla and B Wills. Wow, a little bit of BM.
It seemed like they were very antsy at the end, Tom. Like they were going for these like odd quick fire peaks when it felt like it wasn't really required. You had a player dropping down from catwalk towards the site that got caught by B Wills. It's a bit of a mess at the end for High Coast, and the end result is they're 4 rounds behind, and now they have to come out with Deagles. It was looking like they'd not just win the round, but they'd get it convincingly done. As it stands, though, Triumph come back out with their AWP and their assault rifles behind it, and High Coast, all 5 of them clumped together looking to push over on Ivy. Now, Cooper should be able to get a frag, or at least take a shot and then fall back, and that's exactly what comes into play. Smoke can go behind it, and he stops High Coast for now. They may very well push behind that HE, but there's also a second player up on the train. Nice shot from Motum. The Viz elsewhere has silenced Ben, and now Cynic is looking to suppress what remains of the T. Spray is good. Getting one, may have caught a second player as well. And with a flash behind it and the AWP shot narrowly missing out, they know that both players are here. He doesn't have stilts. He can't get up there by himself. Must have been boosted. Now the rest of the CTs can look to try and funnel in and to potentially outright win this round.
Chances looking slim. We still haven't seen much in terms of RCF so far in this matchup. I feel like there's a lot more to be shown with his aggressive AWPing style. But at this stage of the round, 40 seconds left, you can see how passive Triumph is sitting. There's something I've actually quite enjoyed so far with their CT side of train, is they're more than happy to just wait. Like, okay, you want to have the fights, you want to face off against us, we're just not going to peek. And while for RCF now, it sort of gets to the point where it goes, okay, is it just worth trying to save this AWP? 20 seconds left on the clock. A second shot connected, but now he walks straight into the hands of Viz. Isn't going to happen this time. He has the money to buy another one in the next round anyway, and at least probably sent a shiver down their spine.
Yeah, in the context, 3 kills may not be good enough, but more often than not, when you come out with pistols and you take down 3 rifles, that's really not a bad outcome at all. It keeps a few players' economy honest. Cynic down to 100, Viz 600, Cooper just below 1,000. So there are ways forward if High Coast can get some success. And RCF, decent spawn goes in. Again, he's had a lot of impact on the map. B Wills, although flashed, still moving forward. And they have left Viz alone on B side once again, with a fast rotation option in the hands of Sheikh Zula, who also has the AUG, so that's tailor-made for positions like Connector looking down onto ramp.
Ooh, careful. Cooper's definitely spotted his prey. Flashbang's going to leave him a little bit blind, and actually RCF manages to win that one. Jake Zula quick to find a response, so not really the end of the world. And Jake Zula actually going to go running across. It seemed risky, but he gets away with it. Has support from his teammates as well, who look to clean this up now. It's falling apart for the T's and left all on to Ben. And while, yeah, didn't think that was going to go too well. Hoping to try and finish off one of the remaining players with a Glock, but Triumph, it just seems like they're shutting down anything thrown at them. And for High Coast at this stage, they were already behind going into this half, but the fact is, no pistol win, no win at all after what was the initial stages.
Yeah, and they've had chances as well. They made a massive blunder over on the B site. There's been a couple of scrappy moments that I'll go back to, I'm sure, and watch over the VOD and be disappointed by, but seems like they want to go out on their shield at least. They want to get aggressive. Completely on board with this as Ben pushes through towards Sandwich. Smoke down affords him a bit of safe passage, but eventually that will dissipate. And then he'll be out in the middle of nowhere. He needs a bit of support. Pushing through that smoke now, using the green train as cover. The rest of his teammates behind him can hear the footsteps, but Cynic successfully baits him alongside Sheikh Zula, and the rest of the pieces of the puzzle start to fall into position. 3 kills in succession. Cynic does get a team kill in amongst all of the action. May not end up matching, but there are 2 players low, one of which is Pone alone. He's gone down to the hands of Motton, who will then meet his demise courtesy of Viz. 14-7, and it feels like to me, Tom, that we're heading to Dust 2 in just a few moments.
Yeah, there's been absolutely nothing. Like, this was an 8-7 half, and over the last 2 rounds, it almost seems like they're just trying the same thing again and again. Like, okay, maybe if we just run at them a little bit faster this time, like, we'll be able to headbutt the bullets back in their direction. It hasn't worked, and I don't really see much of a depth of strategy at the moment. Of course, this is a map, as we mentioned, High Coast don't really play, but we were kind of hoping that maybe some of the individual prowess could bring them through a couple of rounds. However, it seems like Triumph are very comfortable on this map.
Yeah, the hopes and prayers have not been answered. Instead, they've been showered and riddled with bullets, and Cynic will go in again. It's been under the radar, really. He doesn't necessarily get like a ton of flashy frags, but he's always there or thereabouts. 16 frags in RCF. It was bullets or it was a Molotov that was going to finish him off. The flip from Cooper not quite on point. Unfortunately for him, Viz is there to clean up the rest. 8 rounds that Triumph have a chance to secure their choice of map.
Yeah, and well, since we've got into this second half, it has been all but easy. 7 rounds in a row for Triumph. They did enough on the T side, that was for sure. It definitely got a little bit more dicey than they might have liked with the early start that they had, but hey, you get yourself a couple of decent starts on both sides of the map. From then onwards, it sort of becomes plain sailing, and unfortunately for High Coast, it just looks like they've been outmatched on this one. And you know what? When things don't work, buy more AWPs. Double AWP T side. Just going to try and work a single AWP T side. You know, Vince, that old chestnut.
It's been picked up, so double up T side. Let's see, can it work the second time? Mottom, straight down in the smoke, will be greeted by Sheikh Zula and Viz. They're walking into each other, they're blocking each other's path. Hello! Mottom's head is removed, and with that, likely the chances of a comeback go with him. Triumph 2v5 to secure train.
I don't remember them putting a pole here. It's a little bit weird. Can't walk around it for some reason. Maybe they closed the doors. That would be the worst dynamic ever if you could just shut that door. But either way, double up's still there. They're sticking with it. I respect it. You talk about going out on your sword. That's look what like this is. Okay, Ponlone's got 1, but even with that, I don't know who's going to expect this angle. Sheikh Zula. There we go. Straight off the ladder, and that will be a 16-7 victory. A strong performance, not losing a single round in their CT half, not getting overwhelmed by any of the aggressive pushes that we saw from the other side.